This is the CrowVision. What an awesome name, CrowVision. It comes in two different sizes, 7-inch or 11.6-inch, and I am going to show you the 11.6-inch today. The 11.6-inch has a 1366 by 768 resolution. It's an IPS screen, and it will work for many of your single board computers, but of course there's no reason why you can't just use regular cables and plug this into your laptop or your desktop PC, or just use it as an HDMI screen in general, if that's your jam. You can order this with a plug for a couple of different countries, US, UK, EU, or AU, or you can also get it with a Raspberry Pi 4 or 5 if you want, but you can bring your own, that's fine. I'm going to try and put this into an Apache 2800 case. It looks like it's about the right size for that, so I'll show you how well that works out. And then they have this 7-inch model, which is pretty much the same, except for the screen resolution is a little bit lower because the screen size is lower and it gets harder to see. So this one is 1024 by 600, and it is a lower price because there's less of it to manufacture, and all the same things apply outside of that. This will also fit in the 2800 case, but it'll have a lot more room left around the outside of the bezel because it's a smaller screen. I do not know if it will fit in any smaller cases because I don't have this screen or a smaller case to show you. All right, let's see what we've got in the box. Oh, there we go, box in a box. Good, because that outer box was kind of destroyed. Space Voyage Merry Christmas sale. Well, this is going to do really well in January, almost February as I'm recording this. Okay. And then there is the inside box. This is the CrowVision. It is IPS and it is a touchscreen at the very least, but IPS means it's going to have a very superior viewing angle. You'll be able to see this at a lot better tilt angles than a non-IPS screen. And the touch screen part means we can do some really cool stuff with WSJTX as an example, because once you get WSJTX set up, it's actually very touchscreen friendly to switch over from making one contact to logging it to making another contact. Like even if I have a keyboard attached, using the touchscreen instead of using a mouse is one less thing to carry. The user's manual is very small. Stick your Raspberry Pi on the back. We'll get into that when we get that far. Plug in your cables, and then what all the different parts are, which we're going to see here in a second. Safety information. Don't lick it, don't eat it, don't freeze it, don't burn it, etc. 12-volt 2-amp adapter for the external power supply. Nice. It comes with some nice acrylic stands. If you want to use this as just a regular desktop monitor until you get your project box all sorted out. The included power supply is 12 volts 2 amps like they request, but as hams this should run off of our battery packs and our Workbench power supplies very easily. This is one of the HDMI cables. It is regular HDMI to mini HDMI. This is our button board, menu, down, up, enter, and power. It's a pretty lightweight circuit board, but there's some mounting holes there for it, and that looks like where one of those ribbons go. And there's one of the ribbons. There's the screwdriver, mini HDMI to micro HDMI. Like this would go for a Raspberry Pi computer into the display, and then this would go for like a regular television or laptop or something into the display. USB cable to micro USB cable, and we have USB to USB-C. We've got a couple of cable management straps. I like these one-wrap straps. I like this style. So there's two of those, and then the screen. All right, and then we have the typical peeling to go on. This is a very nice looking screen once you get this scratched up screen protector off of it. Very nice. And then on the back side, there is some self-adhesive, it looks like. I'm going to take this off if it is. Yeah, there's some self-adhesive down the side, so you could stick that into your project box directly. And then have it be nice and stuck for you. And to protect the display while I'm messing with it, we'll sit it on its foam there. This is your display driver board and has those same controls: enter, up, down, menu, and power. There's your power connector, audio out, a couple of other inputs. You've got the HDMI, and then you have the USB, which is probably how this thing interfaces with the Raspberry Pi for doing touchscreen work. These here are really slick. These are on sliders so that it will accommodate just about any type of single board computer you can throw at it. So I happen to have right here in front of me, very quickly and easily, a Raspberry Pi Zero. It's an MMDVM hat if you guys have seen those before, but we don't need the MMDVM part for this display. So I can put it on, let's do it like this as an example. All right, it's too narrow to go that way, but we can go this way here. So one screw there, one screw there, and one screw there. And now that would be firmly implanted and ready to roll. Then we can just do some cable management. Maybe turn it over so that all of the cables from here go to here easily. That's a Raspberry Pi 0 example, but I would probably use this with a Raspberry Pi 4 or a Raspberry Pi 5. So let me get that squared away. Since they gave us the screwdriver, we'll use the screwdriver for this. I figure whichever way I put this on is probably not going to be the best way. So we'll put it on, we'll figure out if it's a good way or not, and we'll change it if we need to. All right, there we go. Now let's cable her up. This would be the power cable. This says it is 5 volts out, so we will use this to power the Raspberry Pi. Display cable. And then we need to plug in this cable here so we can use our touch. So I'm going to plug this into one of the black USB ports on the Raspberry Pi because it really doesn't need high-speed data to do touchscreen work. And then this plugs into the micro USB port over here. If you have a different computer than a Pi 4, you're probably going to need some different cables. But it is nice that it comes with the cables that you need in order to get the Raspberry Pi 4 or 5 working just fine. It turned right on at first boot, and it's coming up. See if I can get a little bit closer to get rid of some of that backlighting issue. It's hard to film a screen with a camera, but we're going to do our best here to show you, because I can't show you a screen capture of this because it wouldn't show you the screen. This is Raspberry Pi doing its normal first boot stuff. It just went through and resized the partition. Let's see if the Raspberry Pi is going to complain about not having enough voltage. All right, there we go. We've connected up to our Wi-Fi network, and the touch interface works right out of the box. I like that. And this is showing up as 1920 by 1080. It looks like it's a little compressed. Try changing that. That is 1600 by 900. This is going to be 1440 by 810. Yeah, this looks really good. 1280 by 720, which is probably the smallest resolution I'd want today. This looks pretty good. 800 by 450 is the smallest resolution allowed, so we don't have to go through every single resolution. And this is where you start to run into issues, because the applications on the screen are bigger than the desktop space itself. So let's change this over to 1920 by 1080. Apply. And we're back. And then there is your on-screen keyboard ready to roll. So you can do just about everything you need to do here. So let's open up a terminal. Let's do sudo install GTX. Yep, it is fully installed now. Let's run it. It automatically put the on-screen keyboard back up there for me. And there you go. This works the same as it would on any HD monitor. Let me get out of here. Exit. Okay. And let's get rid of that. And then maximize that. And there's your WSJTX screen. And it's just as usable as it would be on any regular screen. This is kind of pushing the limits of what an HD screen can look like to the human eye in terms of readability, unless you have really good eyes and you're young, and I'm not, and I don't. So I'm going to try and change that resolution down a bit. Okay, so that's still not bad, but this is where WSJTX gets to be kind of a pain. If I go into settings, see how the button is off the bottom of the screen? And I can just ever so barely bring it up to hit the button. And it's complaining that there's no audio setup, because there is an audio setup. So after you get it configured with your right radio, then you can switch it back down to a more viewable screen size. I think this 1280 by 720 is fantastic on this screen. Let's get a ruler out. The actual corner-to-corner measurement is 13 and a quarter, and then I've been touching the screen, so this went off the screen. The display is 11 and a half. So if I wanted to mount this in a project box, I could make a nice little 3D printed cover for this and use the ribbon cable to plug it in so my controls are on the front of the screen, the front of the case, instead of buried behind the screen that's now mounted inside the case. I can use all of the included, or go get some more of my own one wraps and tidy up these cables that are sticking out of the top here. But overall, that's a pretty good looking display. I like the black bezel around the outside. It's a nice finishing touch. You can't tell that there's not a case on it from the viewing angle of the user. The feet are nice, but if you're putting it in a project box, you don't need them. If you're not putting it in a project box, they're absolutely perfect. They do the job nicely. It doesn't look unfinished at all in this configuration, except for the cables coming out the top, but we can do a better job on that. This is an Apache 2800 case, and it looks like it will fit in here pretty good. Let's show you one cool thing about this case. When you take all of the foam out of the case lid, there are standoffs up there for mounting things. So let's see what we can do with this. So that screen fits in there perfectly. So I could very easily make something to mount the display to the inside of the case, and then have the whole rest of the case for the rest of my radio project. Now we got to figure out what we're going to do with that. So when I was showing you the screen, it was in full HD mode, and according to the specs on the website, that is a bigger mode than it can handle. So it's been software zoomed and interpolated in order to make it fit, and that's why it looked a little artifacty, and that's why the 1280 by 720 screen, it looked really good comparatively, because that was less than the physical resolution of the screen and was able to be better stretched to fit than squeezed to fit with the higher resolution than the screen can display. So I asked it to do something it didn't do. It happily did it and gave it its best shot, and it was still pretty usable. The WSJTX interface is the one that was the most important to me, because the buttons are off the screen and it is hard to deal with if you don't have proper controls in order to hit the OK button at the bottom. That still does work on the 1280 by 720 screen, as I showed you, and it gets a little weird filming a screen compared to just doing a screen share of a screen. But we made it do. There are links for more information on these in the description down below, and I am on a mission to get to 100,000 subscribers this year. So if you could click that subscribe button down at the bottom, I sure would appreciate it. That would be pretty awesome for me. In the meantime, there's a video right over here I think you might enjoy next. Thanks for being awesome. I'll see you over there.